Class is
All
in
right, class, for
session.
today's lesson,
Yeah. We're gonna
it's all
all
about coming together.
yeah, we're gonna
Just
make
trying to
our
have
own
coffee with
app.
my family.
Yeah. That's the name of the app. Coffee with Family. All right.
Jeez.
Let's see. Can I get I don't want to like view. Okay, cool. There we go. You see that? I see that. I see that. All right, can everybody see screen? Everybody see Unity? All that jazz?
What's
I'm gonna
Unity?
No.
It's been like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know. What
I
is
thought we
a
were using
Unity?
Unreal, dude.
Yeah, we're doing actually we're writing this in Ruby scripting, which is for RuneScape botting. Today we're going to make thousands of
Yes.
Oh
RuneScape
shit,
bots.
let's go.
Let's go.
Thousands of
Dynamite
Awesome.
sailing. Here
RuneScape
I
bots,
come.
man. Yeah.
Why does it say Python at the top?
That's because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am built like one. Anyway, so here's what we're gonna do. All right. So the last sessions that we've been doing, we had multiple issues. I would try to get as much stuff done as I could within that 2 hours, so that by the end of it we could try to reach the challenge, so that we could get to a point where everybody can mess with stuff. And we're gonna scrap all of that because it puts us into kind of a bind where we're rushing and I'm cutting corners, and the pace of the class doesn't ever go backwards back to where it should be. And I just constantly kept a momentum that got faster and faster and faster, and people couldn't keep up because we were just kind of rushing to get to the end to be like, aha, we did it. Or you're all coders now, right? You understand it now, right? So we don't want to do that anymore. Um, and so we're going to kind of restart a little bit, where we're going to just try to touch base on all the things that we have technically already talked about, just to see how much you guys comprehend that stuff. And then we're going to build projects around concepts rather than building one giant project that introduces those concepts over time. So everything's been rebuilt to be multiple small single feature games that introduce new concepts that will help you kind of comprehend those. Now, when it comes to a challenge and it comes to quizzing, that's going to work a little bit different too. We are going to not end each session with a challenge. Instead, when we complete the project in full, however many sessions it takes us, you're then going to receive the project to then start doing stuff on it hands on. And you're going to do the hands on stuff during class. So it will go from here's how we make this thing gets made, and then you're going to give you that thing. And the next time we come into class, everybody's going to jump in that thing on their own workflow and add stuff and change things and test it and discuss what they've found and things like that, so that we get rid of I don't have time to do the challenges during the week because I've got XYZ thing going on. We get rid of who did what, who understands what. We get rid of a whole bunch of problems by just pushing it to we're going to make the shit, and then we're going to work on the shit together for the challenge session. And then after we're done with the challenges, then I'm going to give you a quiz to complete before we move to the next project. And that quiz will go over every single thing that whole challenge went over. So it'll be a little bit longer. So instead of like the quick little 10 questions, it might be like 20 to 40, depending on how big the project is. How does that sound to everybody? Sound better? Worse?
Sounds great.
And now the audio for the entire
Don't stop.
video is banned. And I
Oh
and
no!
now
God
you
damn it,
just
man.
copyrighted the audio. Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Also, if anybody's not cool with it, let me know now. I am actually going to put these videos out publicly as part of the actual YouTube course that I'm going to do, so that I'm not doubling down on the amount of work that I'm doing. So that I'm going to
Some more
try
gamer
to
work.
you can. I mean, I don't care what you say as long as it's not a copyrighted thing, like jackass over here. No, I'm just kidding. But we still we don't want any copyrighted material. But I'm not worried about getting flagged for saying bad words,
Yeah, because
because
YouTube's been going fucking stupid on shit.
yeah, I mean, I say bad words all the time. That so it's just gonna happen. Um, but that being said, that's kind of the framework. So a lot of this stuff you'll probably already know, but we're going to really kind of test your comprehension, and we're going to make you do stuff with that. when we get done with the project. Now, for this project in particular, what we are going to, I guess what we'll focus on here is what we're going to cover. So we're going to just kind of cover stuff we already know. Like I said, what is C sharp, how compiled languages work. We're going to go over code execution, how it flows from top to bottom, make sure you understand the difference of methods, understanding entry points into data. We're going to talk about what a statement is versus expressions and show you examples. We're going to go over all of our primitive types again. We're going to go over declaring the variables and how the different ways we can declare them. We're going to talk about initializing them, which is one of the ways that we declare them, and then what default values are. So, like if you name something like we'll go over it. So basically, if you don't initialize what the value is of a number, for example, what it defaults to, and how that affects each individual primitive type. And to talk about all that and to put it all together, we're going to build a game that is going to be kind of empty here. So when we build these projects, we are going to focus on teaching you how to prototype with no assets. So we're not going to pull in Cinti. We're not going to jump over into third party stuff and pull a bunch of assets in and build a crazy cool game. These are purely small miniature projects to teach you concepts, but to make it cool, we're still going to download them onto our phone. So I accidentally deleted this entire project right when class started. Luckily, I have the project on my phone so that I can still show it to you. If you want to look at the camera real quick, which I can't show it on here, so I'll have to view that. But if you can see my camera, so it's made with Unity. It'll pop up. So basically, oh, that looks terrible. So it's an idle clicker game, right? So every time I click, we get gold. We're gonna take that gold and we're gonna spend it. We got a menu here on what to spend it on. And basically, the way the game is gonna work is the concept, which you can reskin it to be anything. The concept that I came up with is that there's a dragon, and the dragon wants gold, and so you're tapping to increase the amount of gold that you have, and then you're spending that gold on peasants who will then deliver that gold to the dragon automatically. So it's like an idle clicker game that you've probably played a million of on phones and so on. And so we're just going to create that full loop. We'll have some peasants run across the screen in the form of cubes, and then we'll talk about how to scale that and how to make it a better experience for the user and things like that during the challenge phase. But it's a very complete, simple loop, and that's what we're going to work on first. And so to start with that, as we always do, we are going to brainstorm it. So I'm going to rewrite out all the core features. So we have gold earned by tapping. It's going to be button, not screen, just for learning. And the only reason that we're not doing a screen tap, which is what you would typically do, is you'd want to tap the screen to earn gold instead of an individual button, is because of the difference in how much you need to actively know about Unity versus learning just C sharp. So we're trying to not do as much Unity overhaul, focus purely on C sharp code. We will introduce Unity elements like the canvas and building UI, stuff like that, but we want to stay away from stuff where we don't have to introduce too much Unity things so we don't cloud what we're talking about. So in this case, we're doing a button and not screen tapping because that requires understanding how all that device stuff works. We need to upgrade the amount of gold earned per click. We need to spend the gold on peasants who will then deliver that gold. We want to upgrade the amount of gold a peasant can deliver. And let's see. And then we want to have a delivery system. And then we want a UI that manages all this data. So this is the main circular function. We're not going to scale it, not right now. We're going to scale it in the challenge section. So once we've built out this system and we have a full structure and everybody can download it onto their phones and play it, then we will jump into challenge and start scaling it. So off of the top of your head, based on what you can remember, if we were trying to work on building the gold and we want the gold earned by tapping a button, just that system alone, what do you think it will probably need? What is a first set of data that we might create for gold?
Well, it'd be along the lines of like the canvas type of deal that we did with the UI.
Yeah, so we'll need a canvas. Yeah, so we'll need a canvas. Inside the canvas, we need what buttons do you think? What buttons do we need in the canvas? If this is all of our functions, what do you think our canvas needs?
Well, the one button in the middle to go ahead and press, and then
Yeah, we need the press button
separate and
for gold. What
and
else
then
buttons do we need?
separate buttons like you showed on the bottom for the peasants.
Yep, we need a button for upgrading peasants. We need a button to buy the peasants. We need a
Oh, and then also like an amount, like a
yeah, we
tracker.
need we
on the
need
top.
text to show us how much gold we have, things of that nature, right? What other text would we might need on the screen? If we're upgrading stuff, if we have a delivery system happening, here's our features. What text would you probably want to know from this information?
How many peasants you have unlocked?
Yep, how many peasants?
And the gold amount.
Yeah, how much gold we need is technically not the same thing, so you're right. So gold amount is correct. So how much gold we need to buy peasants or upgrade?
Is it instantaneous to get the peasants and like so if not time like travel time or something?
So
like
we'd want to know how long until the next delivery that the peasants are going to bring stuff in.
that?
Yeah, so delivery time. Okay. And then, I mean, I think we can just start with that. So what we'll do is before coding, rather, we're going to go ahead and just prototype out a screen of what it might look like, what information we might need. So the first thing we're going to do is we always, for this, we need a canvas. A majority of this game is going to be built specifically inside of the canvas. And the reason is it's pretty much all a UI based game. It's more like an app than it is a game in terms of structure. So we're not interacting with like the 2D world and we're not moving characters around in space or anything like that. We're pretty much just working within the UI to upgrade our gold, upgrade our peasants, things like that. So we just need to start with our canvas. And our canvas, when we create it, automatically is going to then spark an event system. So as soon as we create the canvas, an event system pops up. So inside the canvas, we then start to build out our elements. So we know we need, let's start with just the text. So I have Text Mesh Pro. Whenever you have a project and you go to create a text element, you're going to want to use Text Mesh Pro because it has a whole bunch of built-in tools for Unity to help with just scaling text and editing text, all of this stuff in this little block right here to edit it, which does not exist outside of Text Mesh Pro. It's basically, it allows us to create a meshing system in the form of font. Otherwise, you're using just a raw font system and it totally sucks. It'll ask you to install it. So what we're going to do is we're going to default. We're going to say this is gold and we're just going to put a ridiculous number in here so that we can see what it might look like if we had a ridiculous amount of gold. So, but typically you would be like, okay, well, gold 0 is what we're going to start at. But when I'm building out my UI and I'm building out a prototype before I'm doing any code and I want to know what this might look like thrown together, I'm going to put a higher number for where I think my numbers could be. Like I could have this much gold in my game. So I'm going to say that and then adjust my UI accordingly. Now, when it comes to actual UI and deciding where to put it, first of all, let me do blunk. When we have that canvas, the canvas is actually going to sit outside of the actual project zone. So this is our project. If we were working in the game world, this is where our game world actually is. But we are working within the canvas, which sits externally and has its own space. Additionally, something else I forgot to mention is here in our game window. If you look at, we have our display 1, but we have a 16 by 19 portrait. I am actually building this in build profiles under Android. So I'm not actually building a Windows game, I'm building an Android game. And I could just as easily click Windows and switch to it, and it would just change the layout. But we're going to build for Android so that when we're done with this, we can shoot out the APK directly to our phones and actually play the game. And with that build set, we can use typical phone screens and aspect ratios for phones based on that. I could go further to go simulator and choose the actual device, which when I chose that device, it looked like garbage. So I wonder why that happened. Let's see, what's my scale? Oof. Let's go ahead and work within. So if I do game 16 by 19, I wonder how accurate that is. Let's check our canvas. So, okay, so our canvas, to make this accurate to the simulator, is we need to make sure our canvas render mode is going to be set, overlay is correct, but not constant pixel size. We need to scale with screen size. And as soon as I click that, you see that it shrinks down right here, which is a little bit more accurate to our simulator. There's a little bit of a pixel difference, but we can adjust with that as we go. So we're going to still work though within the game window and try to accommodate different devices and kind of see what happens. So for me, I have it set to what my device is, which ironically is a Note. It's not a Note 20, it's a Note 10, and it looks exactly, whatever I put up in here looks almost exactly like this on my phone. It's only a little bit blurry because of the zoom, but if we actually get closer to it, you can see that it does render pretty well. So it just looks like it doesn't render right. So if we work in game, it will render a little bit more accurately based on this aspect ratio stuff. So now back to our canvas. So like I said, we want overlay for our render mode, and then our UI scale mode, we want it to scale with the screen size, and then we want to set it to a resolution that is probably going to be what the screen is going to be. So since we're doing portrait, it's not 1920 by 1080, it's 1080 by 1920 because we're doing the long way. And then now it looks like it fucked up a little bit. Let's see. Let's increase our size a little bit here and see if it still breaks. There we go. We just needed to readjust it. Perfect. Perfect. So now that we have our canvas set, this is specifically just setting up with mobile interface in mind. If you're doing a Windows game, you're going to scale still with screen size, but you're just going to flip-flop these numbers. You're going to do 1920 by 1080 instead of the other way around. Because our X, this is our 1080, this is our 1920. All right. In our canvas, we have our text. This is going to be our gold text. So I want to name it exactly what it is. So we're going to say gold amount. And if I want to be really picky, we're going to also have peasant amount and things of that nature. So I might say amount as like the type, and then gold is which one. So I might say amount gold, and then I would duplicate this and say amount peasants, if I wanted to get really technical. Doesn't really matter, but it's just something that I was thinking about while we're here. So we'll say amount gold, amount peasants. So if I ever have to search, I can just say amount. Oh, they're not. They're not saved, so I guess that doesn't matter. But if I type amount here, you see amount gold, amount peasants, anything to do with values would then show up in our scene if we needed to filter like that. And let's see, let's move our gold to a position that we actually want it. So I personally prefer if my value is going to grow outwards or whichever direction it's going to grow. We want it to be one line. I don't like two lines. So we're going to move it to a single line by adjusting. So you see this yellow square. This is basically the space in which the text is allowed to take before it word wraps. Now, if I scale it out, you see that it will fix it. Let me get rid of that amount peasants. And I'm going to go back to just calling this gold amount just because I don't want to be super crazy quite yet. And now you also see there's another component right here. There's another bracket right here. We have our yellow component to drag the word space. And then we have the actual, this bracket here. If I click, okay, cool, it'll let me click it. If I grow that, it kind of grows the same thing. What I don't like about this is it's very easy to make the mistake of dragging this yellow space to fix it instead of grabbing the actual object space and fixing it. If you grab just this yellow bracket and you go outside here, let's say the value stretches out. So like these two zeros, if I needed to click on this value, the clicking space would only be within this bracket here. So this yellow space would not be clickable. I wouldn't be able to interact with that space. This is the same thing as taking like a cube and stretching out the size for the game object. This is the actual object's space that it's taking up. And then this is the allowed space for like the, I guess the rect transform is not correct because the rect transform is the actual body. This is how far we allow word wrap basically. So you try to keep them the same just for prosperity's sake. I can't think of a reason as to why you would stretch this out and not this together. I can't actually think of a reason. So I'm not going to say that there isn't one, but I can't think of a really good reason as to why you would ever just stretch out the yellow. So now we have our one line, and now we need to figure out where to put it. So if we think about like, let's pull up
Since it's a phone, do you want to kind of have that in mind and kind of put it where the thumb would be?
That's only if we need to click on it. If that's the correct thought process, that's absolutely correct for the buttons. So the gold itself, its value, its text value, probably wouldn't be something that you need to click on. It's something that you just need to be able to see. And so what I want to find real quick is the idle game mobile example. Let's see if we got anything in here that is going to show.
Maybe like top left, right?
Yeah, so there's tons of different ways to do it here. So this guy's got a good idea. We can use this here, open a new tab. God, just give me the image. Where's
Yeah, I
the
love it when
image?
that happens.
Okay, this is kind of cool. That's kind of cool. That's kind of good. Here we go. This is the image that I actually wanted. Open this image. All right, so all of these are mobile games, and you can see the UI functionality. So here's our gold right here, right? Here's this guy's gold. It's an icon instead of a value. This is what you would want to do later on when it comes to like, how do I improve the look and feel? You would replace anything that says the word gold with images instead. And so we have multiple different currencies here. So we have like our level, what stage we're on. We have currency, currency, currency. So we're going to kind of probably replicate that because it's pretty much a standard across everything. And the way that the standard works is whenever you're reading a book, whenever you're reading anything at all, you're reading naturally from left to right. So the thing on the left is your most important subject for your eye. The further we go across, the less important that subject needs to be, followed by the next row and moving down. So the farther down we go is the least important, followed by the most important being at the top, starting from the left to the right. So in this case, using this example, the most important thing is what level you currently are. This is your permanent progress. And then there is a value here. I would say based on the coloring that this is a premium currency. So this is probably like some kind of premium gem type thing, or maybe this one is. Followed by another resource, followed by the least important resource, which is the gold. And the reason it's the least important, even though it's the larger number, is it's the most common. It's the most common thing that you're going to have in this game. Then if we take a look at this next screen here, let's see, I can't actually tell what's going on this side. I'll say with more like this side here. So let's see, this is fighting. We have menu inventory systems right here, so we can see he has a cloak. Even though he's in the middle of fighting, he was able to pull up this menu to see a cloak that he has that he can upgrade. We've got his quest objective. We have a menu for a shop. I would argue this is terrible placement. These menus right here, in my opinion, I think these are terribly placed. I think the next thing that should be here is if this is an RPG for combat, it would be your quest, the health information of the enemy, things like that. And in my opinion, knight, skills, shop, all that should be stuff that's down here near your thumb so that you can click on those and quickly sift through, kind of like he's doing with this menu stuff here. Just my opinion. Um, but figuring out the proper UX, the proper UI takes a little bit of time. It takes feedback and it takes looking at what's already out there. So we're going to move past it a little bit and go based on just here's my experience on where I would put them. And we won't dig too much deeper into it until a little bit later when it's time to start scaling it and cleaning it up and fixing the experience a little bit. So I'm going to put the gold amount at the top left, or sorry, top right, because we might want other things later. Like I also think that like the level, or maybe if we do have a dragon, maybe we have like a dragon's hunger or something like that. You need to always be aware of how pissed off your dragon is. So that might be something to have. So this gold
Would
value,
that information be more important on like a middle right or middle left?
for what, like the dragon's hunger,
Yeah,
it just
'cause there's like
depends on
75.
yeah, so like it just depends on what other information and features you have going on. If the only other feature in this is Dragon's Hunger system, if like in terms of like data that's coming across the screen, I would argue it still goes to the top left as the most important thing. But if since we have like peasants and gold, I would say we would keep that line up at the top. We'd have our peasants, our gold, we'd have our next delivery time, and then we would move on from that. And then if we added the dragon's hunger, if the dragon could kill your peasants when he's too hungry, then it then gets more important after that. So depending on what happens when the dragon is hungry.
Like it looks like
Tasty chicken,
like
chicken.
Looks like what?
sorry. Well, it looks like with that last example, like you essentially you kind of want the player to kind of you want to keep their interest, like the oh man, I'm this far, like
Yeah, you exactly. You want them to
like
see their progress move, especially. If
mhm.
I'm getting XP as I'm killing things, I want to see that bar on my peripheral going up. Like I want to watch
Make
that
your
progress.
brain light up.
Absolutely. That's the psychology of addictive gaming, baby. So we're going to say our gold amount, and I'm going to shorten it up just a little bit by using the word or the letter G, just so that we know that later G will be replaced with an icon that is cool. And then next we got to talk about the anchoring. So The anchoring is relevant if something is going to be adjusted, like if we're going to animate or move something around. So, but the anchoring is fine. What I would say matters here is our alignment. So right now it's everything is aligned to the left, which it's talking
I
about
love
aligning.
standard alignment.
Yeah, so it's talking about the alignment within this bracket. If I know that I could go up to, see, 000, okay, so this is my max amount of characters, but then if I remove it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're just starting with gold is 1, and then if we look at the screen, gold is all the way over here, and that looks like garbage. So I would say we want generally our alignment to either be centered or our alignment to be far to the right. Since we don't know how high our gold is going to be able to get before it becomes something we need to cap or create a problem, which we'll talk about later, I would say align it here so that as it grows, it will naturally just scale out from its original point so that its original point still starts right here so that this line, this much space between this UI element and the phone, that you can match it across all other UI elements. So let's say we add another one below it. We want to stay in this line of space to know how much room we can take up on the phone, how much screen real estate we're going to give our UI over time. So like if I had a bunch of crap and I just randomly tossed it on the screen without any care about where my alignments and stuff are, it starts to get pretty crazy. But by having a universal, what's called a margin from where data is going to be displayed and the edge of your screen, you want to keep that universal wherever you can. The only time you would do a center, if we do a center, it could technically still work, but if we look at how it grows, right? So it grows outward from the direct center of this box. If we grow it out center from this box, what we would have to have is a visual element that takes up this square. So we would visually need a square here in the background to take up the same amount of visual real estate as this one as it grows, so it doesn't just look like garbage in general. Using that example that we are just looking at, let's see, did I delete it entirely? Yes, I did. Did I delete it over here? Perfect. Using this example, they do that exact thing. So here's the icon for gold, and then here is this circular outline, and then the gold is in the center directly of this. So think about this as the yellow outline that we have on Unity, and then the text is centered to that. And then they just have an image of gold sitting on top of it. So that as this grows, if it's 2 million gold, it just fills this bar. But we don't have that bar. So we're going to align to the right as our temporary workaround, and we will come back in the future to clean that up. So we have gold amount. Next, we need our peasant amount. I'm going to say P. Maybe we have, I want 1,000 peasants. Oh, I didn't write it in the right spot. Peasant amount. Let me clean off this one. We'll say P. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then now I'm going to move. What I'm going to keep is the same amount of width, even though it's a smaller number. I'm going to keep the same amount of width for how much space that it could take up. And if I really wanted to be the perfect designer for this, right, I would set these to be the same values for the same amount of space. And the reason is so that I can get exactly the amount of space in between each other based on the max amount of information. So let me just show you the example. We're going to fill up this box first. Let me move this out of the way. So we're going to say we have G and then our max value, 1. How many zeros can we fit till it breaks? There's our max value. And then we're just going to copy this. I'm going to paste it into here. Now I'm going to take peasants and I'm going to move it back over here. Now we do have a grid system. And this grid, we can see it's about, was this 1, 2? It's a 2 by 2. So 2 by 2 squares away from each other per piece of data. So currently we only need the gold amount, the peasant amount, and then we're going to have delivery time. So I'm going to say delivery time. And I'm going to move that over too, and then we'll figure out. So if we look, there's 3 spaces, 3 squares here, no squares here. These are 2 squares apart, 2 squares apart, so I need to move my UI. So I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to try to adjust. So let's see, there's 1, that one's got 2, and I have snapping on, so I'm going to turn off my snapping. And I'm going to see if I can't just go, like, if I go 1, gold amount, it's right there. Delivery time, it's right there. That's pretty good. It's probably as good as we're going to get it on the fly. So that way we have all of our resource information lined up. One thing that's bothering me is there's just a little bit of space right here. That's not the amount of space at the end. So we could probably clean that up just a little bit by clicking all 3. And then we're going to change our width. I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to grab the whole thing. And think. So now should be side to side for the max amount of data per text. So if I click on this one, it's got the same. Click on this one, click on this one, it's got the same. So now when we look at our adjustments, so we got 3 blocks now, and 2 blocks. We have a lot more room to move this across. So we're gonna get this down to 2 blocks and see if we can get 2 to 2. Ooh, yeah, look at that. Yeah, almost a perfect 2 to 2. And if you look up here, you can visually see that gap and kind of make that judgment on your eyes as well to be like, how perfect is this? And so now that that's, in my opinion, good enough, I can go, okay, here's what it's actually going to look like. Be 100. We're going to say there's 1,000. Our gold amount, we're going to say our gold amount's probably going to be, we're going to say 10,000. And then our delivery time, it's only going to be like this. So our delivery time is going to be all the way here at the end. We're going to move it to the left. Our peasant amount could probably comfortably sit in the center. And let's see, we might have to create visual boxes or just move things because this is never going to be smaller than that. So actually, since that's never going to be smaller than that, we can just move. Oh, I did the thing. I did the thing that I said never to do. Just not move the yellow bracket. So this number is never going to get bigger than that. Oh my God, stop it. So 2 brackets away, or 2 squares away. This number, our max peasants could definitely get crazy. So I think we still want that alignment to match that alignment. Yeah, I think that's good enough for right now. The amount of space looks a little bit wonky because these numbers are so different. So we might have to adjust the amount of spacing as time goes on to be like, it doesn't look that great. Or we might just say, since it's just numbers, just line them up from smallest to largest on the sides. But I'd like for us to go back later and put panels behind it so that we can kind of replicate this concept here of these panels, because I really like the cleanliness of this, because it doesn't matter how big this number is.
Fix it all.
Yeah, it won't matter how big this number is, because you see this is 0 and this is 204, but the visual element of this block creates that space that everybody likes. Everybody likes to read. So we'll leave that there for now. And so this is our resources. Then we need, let's go ahead and let's group it. So we're going to create here a panel, and we're going to call it resources. And then in this panel, we're going to give this a component called a canvas group. And the reason that we're going to do that is so that A, everything is grouped, and B, we can control the alpha if we ever need to turn off UI elements. And then we're going to take 1, 2, 3, and we're going to attach them into here. Actually, before we do that, so something else that you can do is build your panels first, which is probably what we should have done, because what I like to do with the panels is actually create the visual spots on where UI elements are going to go. So I might be like, this is going to be all a bar dedicated to where resources will be. And then take these, move them into resources, and now I'm going to move them a little bit to match the resource panel more than anything else. So we're going to match our resource panel. And then we'll come back to it later with something fancy. All right, so we got our resources. What's the next thing we need to throw on to our UI?
The clicker button.
Yeah, we need our clicky. Clickety click. So we're just gonna go in here in UI. We're gonna grab a button. It's Button Text Mesh Pro. And it's small as hell. So we're gonna increase it. We got our width and our height. Just go directly into it. So this one is going to be where we're clicking. And since it's mobile, this is where our thumb is going to do most of the work, or our tapping finger, whichever. My vote is going to be that you would typically press on this with your index finger, and we would save the thumb for a menu area. So the thumb would manage menus and upgrades, and your index finger is going to be clicking to gain the gold. So I'm going to keep it kind of directly in the
Every time
center.
it's put it in a different spot.
You could do that. You absolutely could do that. We won't do that unless we get all the way to the end. When we get to the end and we're in the challenge section, that actually might be something we could accomplish pretty easily without getting into too much heavy Unity stuff, because we would just randomly select a new position based on a range of options, and I think that would be totally cool. So we're gonna do
Chase the button.
Yeah, exactly. So you're tapping where the gold is, right? You could go as far as making it where the button is not a button, but is a piece of gold on the screen. And you're actually clicking where the gold is on the screen to collect it. And that is 1,000% a thing that a lot of games do. So this is going to be collect gold.
Be like you're collecting taxes.
Oop, wait, no, this is yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. And so the taxes collected is actually the message I send on the game right now. So let's see, gold earning text. So this is the actual text for the button. There's going to be a value here, and the actual button itself is the gold earn button. Shorten it up, gold earn text, and then we're going to give it a default. So here on this button, I want to know how much gold I'm getting per click. So my default text for it is going to be just G plus whatever the value is of that gold. Let's say it could get up to 1,000 gold per click. It could probably go way higher than that. And then we're going to scale the text to stay within the constraints of this button. So we're going to zoom in. And we can see right now that our yellow bracket here is the exact size of the button element. If I click on the button, click on the text, we're going to scale it down. I'm going to give it some padding. So we're going to say 1 cube of padding all the way across for each side. Maybe a little bit more because that one's not a perfect grid. I could barely see that yellow. Good Lord. All right, and so
Yeah, I
that
don't know why
way,
it's not like a different color.
yeah, so that way if it goes all the way across, to a ridiculous amount of gold, it at least stays within the visual. Because if we let something go all the way to the edge or it goes out, it becomes unreadable. So we want it to be within a readable range. And in design, you want to keep, oh my gosh, you want to keep your padding even to kind of represent this is its own section, is basically what we're saying. And centered is actually fine technically because most of this information is not going to be like, we don't want to see that. We want to see it like, you know, G plus 1,000. And let's raise our font size. Let's say our max number that we could probably hit, probably about right there per click. That would be an insane amount of clicking to reach that amount of gold per click. That'd be bonkers. Okay, can I just zoom?
That's when macros come into effect.
Yeah, like you don't the goal is not to really increase this. The goal is to get your peasants to do the work. So the likelihood of hitting this amount of gold is insanity. And so what you do though is if that still is a possibility, it's possible in your game to hit that much gold per click. You have to come up with a contingency of what to do if that value could still go well beyond. So, usually, what somebody does is we don't do a value, we do a letter. So, we might say, so now once you hit a certain point, it's 1 million. Once you hit a certain point from that, 1 billion, 1 trillion, and then we don't actually show the 0.000 billions, right? Like we don't show the decimals. We just show a rounded value. 1 billion, 10 could go up to 100. Some people do, I've seen literally just like 1A, 1C, and then they just go up the alphabet literally across the board based
That's
on
what I
how
thought about
high up
doing.
you go. Yeah, so you can choose all kinds of directions to go to change this value in case it's going to get into a number that's so high you can't possibly fit it on the screen. I don't think that's going to happen right now, so we're going to worry about that later and just say this is probably the highest we'll ever see in the lifetime of this game until I let y'all play with it, and then you show me, look, it happened. It happened, guys. I told you, Ryan. You should have done it. All right, so we got our resources. We got our gold earn button. What other buttons do we need?
The like shop button for the buying the peasants or whatever.
Yeah, we need to be able to buy our peasants. Um, so we need to upgrade our gold per click. We need to buy our peasants, and we need to actually upgrade the peasants. Like we need to increase how much the peasants will deliver. So it's like increase our taxes is what we'll call it. So I'm just going to take this button and I'm going to duplicate it. And we're going to say this is upgrade gold. And we're going to move this down. And we're
Oh
going to
yeah.
look.
So why did you put the little padding, like basically make the actual square a little bit in again?
So you keep a padding. So it's just like a universal design concept. If you look at any kind of like, even if you look over here, there's padding. So look, there's padding between this button and this square all the way across. It's a perfect line all the way across. And this line, this width, is generally going to be the same amount of width on the opposite side. It is also going to be the same amount of width on the top and the same amount of width on the bottom of space between each element. And this helps visually tell you that this data belongs to this area. It's to tell you this area. So here's this padding here. It's to tell you that this data belongs to this space. And you use padding to tell that story. And we'll talk a lot more about design later, but that's the base concept is that you use your padding and your margins to tell the user which area this data belongs to. So it's
Gotcha.
just like here, we have our canvas, right? So when we open this up, the padding goes in, it has an indent to tell you that this is the parent, and this indent tells you that this is the children. and it tells you that all the way across, pretty much across the board. There's this indent, and then we have this weird coloration right here. Literally, the only reason this colored dark gray bar exists is to tell you that when you mouse over it, that there are actions, and the actions are view and turning off whether you can click it or not. So that's a literal design decision just to have this slightly black bar to tell you that there is something inside here. That's the only reason it exists. All right. So got our canvas, our upgrade gold. This is our upgrade button. So what we want to do to stay within our confines of our grid here, let me look at our resources again. So we got our, does that match how many spaces are across? Let me get rid of this panel so I can actually see. Out of curiosity, because I don't think I lined it up correctly after I added them to the resources. So from delivery time, we have about 1, 2, 3, 4. What about on this side? 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, it goes over a little bit. So let's uniform it. I want a uniform space between just for this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just about. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we need to go 4.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we get it halfway. Dink. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna take the gold. And I'm just gonna move it over to be pink. Halfway. It's not entirely accurate, but I want that visual space so that I can line up my buttons. And this is also going to be 1, 2, 3. There's 4. We need a fifth half over. Dink. So about right there. And then we need to think about our margins from the top to the bottom. Our top and bottom is, I think it's 2. It's about 2. That looks more like 1.5. And we'll go down about right here. And then we're basically going to just take this button, duplicate it. We're going to move it all the way over here. Wait, no, we need to fix the button first. First, let's fix the button. It's way too large. This button doesn't need to be as large as this button because it's not as important as this button. This one needs to be smaller so that we know it is a secondary action, is an accent action. So let's see. This is our upgrade gold. Size is 300 by, let's do 200. And then let's put our text. It's not gold earned text. It is our upgrade cost. And we're going to say G plus, it's a good way to abbreviate this because I mean we could say upgrade gold, right? But there's not enough real estate here. We could increase it, we could add all kinds of stuff, but really what it needs to say is the cost is going to be a value of gold. So right, if I do just cost minus 10, it doesn't say what it is that we are buying still.
Do
So let's do,
capital G and then colon and then the number
yeah, we
instead
could
of
do,
a plus.
see, gold. I wonder if we can say like that. No,
We might.
gold. You know what? Let's be programmatic. Say gold plus plus. No, we could just say gold. See, tap upgrade. No. Say tap plus. I don't know. Fucking. Wording. I don't think I chose any cool wording on that app on my phone. Let me see what I chose. Let me see.
App upgrade to
I didn't.
the.
Upgrade what?
Oh, I just said the because we don't really. Might as well just leave it open.
Yeah. Let's say so. Tap. Tap. You know what we could do? Let's. We're gonna do a little bit more here. What we're gonna do is we are going to create. We're gonna create a panel. We're gonna say it is our menu. We're gonna move it down. And let's see. So there's about, so it was 1, 2, 3 space. And then we got, so 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go up one more because what I'm going to do instead, so I'm going to actually put a font, I'm just going to put a text here. It's like upgrades. And then so that way we don't have to say upgrade on the button. We just say what it is and how much it costs. So we know how much that's actually upgrading. So then here in our menu, we can grab the upgrade gold, attach it in, upgrade gold. Now can just say, let me go ahead and take this. It can just say, tap negative 10G or some shit. And then inside the menu, I can just add another UI element. It's just going to be a text. It's just going to say upgrades. And we will align it to the left because it's going to sit on the far side. It's going to sit over here. And it's going to just say grade header. Its purpose is literally just to tell us the name of the menu. And am I clicking on the right thing? And it's never going to change, so we can perfect align that. Bink, bink, bink. And then we're just going to move. And we're going to, like I said, we can make this perfect because it's never going to change. Why won't it do the top? That's kind of lame. Oh, you know what? We can do that. Yeah, that's what we like. So what I changed here, so the alignment, we're aligning to the left and then aligning to the center. So the middle of this bracket so that we can perfectly squeeze this bad boy in here to find the exact, oh, god damn it. Hold on, I didn't grab the, oh no, Satan. Yeah. And then I'm going to give it a square above to give it enough space between this, and then still have 1, 2, is it 3? It is supposed to be 3, so this actually needs to go, this panel. I think this is actually going to mess up because everybody's in this panel. Yes, it is. So if you ever have to fix a panel, you see that I start adjusting it. Everything inside the panel moves with it. And if we don't want that to happen, just grab everything inside that panel, move it out, adjust the panel, and then move it back in. And so now from upgrades, we have 1, 2, 3, and then from the button, 1, 2, 3. So the exact same amount of space between this area from the top and the bottoms are the same, just to keep it uniform. And so now whatever other buttons we have in here, just for the sake of, and then how many spaces between each button depends on how many buttons we all actually have. So let's just throw some fake buttons on here so that you can see. Right, so like if this is how many buttons we have, which I think is how many we have, if they are all actively upgrades, this tells us what they are, and then we can literally just go, okay, well, let's upgrade gold. This is higher or upgrade peasant. And this one is higher peasant, which is not an upgrade. So then we need a difference. So we need it to know. So we're going to say peasant. Oh, Lord. Ooh, we're going to just lower the font on this one. Bam. If we lower the font on this one, might as well lower them on all. 40. So now that at least looks a little bit more uniform. And so for
I love
higher
how peasants
peasant.
Poland is just fuck it. I'll be where I want
Oh,
to be.
I didn't even see it. Yeah, I'll fix that in just a second.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, peasant just looks like a smiley face. Let's see. So this is also technically peasant, which I'll get to in a second. My brain. Negative 10G, same problem. So we're going to say 35. We want it to be as uniform as we can. So 35, 35, 35. So we're upgrading the tap for 10, upgrading the peasant. This one also says peasant, but it's not. This is actually for hiring. So then all we're going to do is take the upgrade header, duplicate it, drag it over to this section, and then we're just going to say buy. So later on, if we wanted to scale this, where we want more things that you could purchase that could do stuff, we now have a second section to be like, okay, we're buying peasants over here, buying sheep, buying corn, whatever we're doing, buying dragon food, upgrading more stuff, and then as more things get added, you scale and move things around accordingly based on that. That will work for me, even though it's not future proof, but it is scalable, so we can leave that. And now that we have this menu, and inside the menu is all of our buttons and all of our headers, the menu can be a canvas group. And then the way that we toggle this menu is with the alpha. So we show or hide this menu with the click of a button, which means the next button that we need is
UI?
we need to
Nobody
show
answered.
we need to show the actual button.
Let
So
him wave his arms around for 5 minutes.
yeah. Okay, cool. So we won't put it in the menu. It'll be a separate button on its own. And we'll make it 100 by 100. We'll make the font, we already know is going to be pretty, you know what? I think the size that it's actually at isn't terrible, because all this is just going to be a UI indicator that I can click something to show a menu. It still needs to stay within the grid padding, which was 4.5, and then 3 from the bottom. So now if I enable this, it should actually be, you see how it almost perfectly matches where this button actually is. So it stays kind of in that same spot. So if we were to enable this, then what do you do with that other button, right? So this button, when we click it and enable this menu, the button actually needs to either A, move, or B, replaced. So if I click this button, we're going to say this is toggle.
We should do toggle on, and then the other one would be toggle off, because
Yes,
we
exactly.
would need to hide the menu.
Yep. And so we'll call it a question mark to be like, you can click this to see what's inside. In reality, you make this an icon, right? What the design that I really like is, again, referencing that I like this. So you have a down arrow to say you can move this down, an up arrow to move it up. And you're not even necessarily animating these things up and down. You're just turning them on and off. So when he clicks this button, the up arrow button then shows. So you're basically just showing and hiding this button or the other button, which I really like that design. So I think I'm going to replicate that concept. So we're going to say when this menu doesn't exist, we have this toggle button, which we have the toggle on. Oh my gosh.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That was extremely cursed.
Yeah. And then we're going to duplicate it This is going to be our toggle off, and its symbol is just going to be an X. And we're going to turn this menu back on so that we can see its placement. And then I'm going to put the position of where I want the toggle off to be. We probably leave it right there. I mean, this padding is the more we mess with this, the more I hate this padding. So we're gonna have to mess with this padding later on. I'm gonna move this where my brain likes it, which is about right here, to toggle this off. And then we're gonna make it a part of that menu. And we're just gonna leave it here at the very top so that because it's gonna be the most important item. It's gonna be like, here's our toggle off. We're gonna click this to close the menu, and then we're gonna click this to turn the menu on. So when this menu is active, this button will be inactive. So if we turn it off, if we have all the stuff together, this is what it would look like. So if everything is on, let's turn our resource panel back on. And then now we can also see that this button is technically no longer centered. And we could move it up to center according to these two panels. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just for the visual. Okay. So with everything active, this is a nice, real simple, basic UI. And now we start basically scripting
legit.
everything and plugging it all together. And then we can get stuff that actually works. I think this will also get a canvas group. So there is, I could take this button and I could disable or enable the button. I don't like doing that because if we need to change how this button functions, if we need to alter the way that we interact with it, disabling the button actually removes it from render. So when we turn it back on, all of the scripts and stuff that are in play looking for this button won't work when it's off. And then when we turn it back on, all those scripts will either have already broken when it was off or not rerun themselves when we turn it back on. So it's smarter for UI's sake to use the canvas group and just adjust the alpha because it's not actually destroying it. All it's doing is just turning it on and off. Visually turning it on and off. And then let's look at something else here real quick. So in our menu, as one of our canvas groups, the alpha, make it 100%, there's an interactable. So the interactable means if I click on it, it's reading those clicks. We don't need the group itself to be interactable. Oh wait, does it not allow me to interact with the buttons on the inside? We'll have to test that. So I'm gonna leave that alone then just in case. But typically I would turn off the interactable so that we don't read signals clicking around in zones that don't actually matter. This top one, resources, is definitely not interactable. And you can see anything that would be interactable, when we turn it off here, it actually turns off those buttons. So I think that means these buttons won't work if I don't have this on. But for the resources, turning it on and off doesn't change any colors of anything because there's nothing that's actually an interactable object in there. So we want to turn off reading it. And I also don't want to block raycasts. So what this means, blocking a raycast, whenever I click on the screen, I'm shooting an invisible line directly in the direction into the world. Like if you think about the cursor here is like it's shooting if we were in three-dimensional space, it's going to shoot a line behind the screen wherever my cursor is. And if we say that this blocks raycasts, whenever I click on here, it will not shoot a line behind that area that I clicked. If there's like a dialogue window popped up, you would want that to block raycast. So like if you have to click on the dialogue to go to the next screen, you don't want them to accidentally select an enemy behind that dialogue window. But in this case, we might want them to have to tap anywhere they want on this screen. So we don't want to block clicking on these to accidentally target something behind it. Later on, if we're like, I want to click this to find out details about my gold, we would turn that back on. So I'm going to leave block raycasts off for
You're hiding the upgrades menu,
uh
and you just happen to click the where the tap button is. it's still rendered in screen, is it not? So wouldn't ray casting need to be blocked to prevent an accidental tap to upgrade something?
So if we only have to tap this to buy gold, this whole upgrade system is not interacting in the space of where this is anywhere. So like if I click on any of these buttons, it's only going to read that I'm clicking on these. If I click over here, it's only going to read that I'm clicking in this space. If I click over here, nothing is going to happen to my gold. It's only when I click here, something is going to happen to my gold. Does that answer your question?
I mean, if we're hiding the upgrade menu,
Oh, I got you.
then
So if it's,
Yeah, so like the
gotcha,
alpha,
gotcha.
right?
Yeah, so if the alpha is
Yeah,
0,
yes,
yeah, and then if we click on it
and
while
if
the
we
alpha is
click on it
0,
accidentally,
you might be right. We'll test that. Let's note that. So debug for
that's a
later.
good catch.
Yeah, that's a good catch. I have not even, you know what I'm curious is I can test that right now on, so let's see. So I'm just going to buy a bunch of gold real quick because that's how this works on here. And then I'm going to look at, let's see, I have one peasant. I'm going to hide the menu and then I click. Holy shit, it does it. So we have to actually control the interaction when we turn off the canvas group. You caught a bug that I didn't catch yet. That's awesome. All right, so when we toggle the menu, we need to also toggle the interactable space, which is easy because it's literally just canvas group dot interactable is now false. That's all you got to do. So easy, easy. That's a good catch. Good job. Let's see. Cool. So that's all we pretty much need for our UI. And now we can start actually generating things. Now is script time. So I will probably build this in a way that I would punch all of you if you built it this way. We're going to do probably just like a couple of scripts rather than building things to be modular like we typically would do. Standard protocol would be each individual script would be based on just the functions of like, so for example, for the climbing gold. Every time we click and we want to earn gold, that entire system of earning gold and dispersing gold and putting it all in the right places and updating the UI would probably be its own script dedicated to just gold. For the sake of having all of our information in one spot, and it's a very small project, we're going to just have kind of a script that will contain all of our clicking components. We will have a script containing managing our resources, and we will have a script containing managing our UI and things like that. So we're going to work it a little bit differently. So I'm going to kind of walk us through it a little bit and then have you guys kind of fill in the gaps as we go. So let me look over. What time is it? 7:19. Cool. So we want to gain our gold. What's going to be? Let's go ahead and build a stat block that's going to contain all of the data that we are going to actually update. So that's going to contain the amount of peasants we have. It's going to contain our delivery time. It's going to be kind of like a game management class, but we're going to call it stats for right now because it's going to store all of the data being crossed back and forth, and then we'll have an external script to click on buttons that will pull from that data, and then we'll have one more script to update the UI functionalities. So let's do that scripting creation. Just go ahead and name them. This is not typically what we would do again. This is what we're just doing for this project to make it smaller, basically. So we're going to say player stats, and we're going to create what did I just click? Okay. We're going to say our UI controller. It's going to control everything to do with interacting with our UI. So this is like a management class in itself. A management class, it's basically its goal is just to dictate what is happening from one interaction to another. That's exactly what that's doing. Where is my brain? Cool. And we'll just call this this will just be clicking buttons. Let's shorten it. Just click button. So all of our button functions are going to go into click button. We're going to start with player stats though. Okay. All right. You go away. And oh, rude. All right, cool. It doubled my solution windows, which we don't like. All right, before we start on this, I need to get a drink of water. My throat is super dry from talking. Let me grab a drink. If you need to go to the restroom, grab a drink, etc., do the same. Ugh. My legs.
You just hear.
Yeah, just hear me frying up chicken, pissing in the toilet. All right, actually, I'm gonna go to the restroom. One second. All right, cool. Everybody still here? Anybody
I am
else?
now.
Anybody else move? Okay, cool. All right. Ding, ding, ding. Wow. All right. So is this pulling up in the right spot? Unity message starter is empty. Yeah, okay, that's fine. We've talked about kind of everything that's going on here before in the first place. We have our start and our update. I'm going to kind of just ignore those for just a minute. So when it comes to building out our scripts, we have our data types. We've talked about primitive data types before. Does anybody remember what the primitive data types are? Is the most basic type of variables that we can store.
Like
Strings,
integers,
integers,
I think.
boolean.
That was when I get like the
Boolean.
and whatnot.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So we got
Boolean.
yeah. So here, let me comment out.
Wait,
So we got bool. Somebody said int.
Int. Yeah.
What am I missing? If you've already answered, don't answer. Somebody else. What am I missing? Anybody? Chris, I didn't hear you say anything if you said something earlier.
I said int.
Oh, you said int? Okay. If anybody said anything besides these two and I don't have it, feel free to say it again.
String.
String, yes.
Yeah, string.
Yeah. Anybody else got another one?
Float.
Float? Yep. Anybody got another one?
If.
If is not a variable. It's the start of, that's our conditionary stuff for our methods when we get deeper down. So this is like the type of data that we would store, right? So like our int is like our gold count, for example.
Is there a funky one that you just don't really use that much?
Was
There
bool
is.
the one that was like either true or false?
Bool is the true or false. Yeah.
They said a different one. Oh, okay.
Yep. Okay, so there's two more that we pretty much never really utilize too much or really talk about. So one you're gonna know right when I say it is double. Do y'all remember this one? So double is basically the same thing as a float. It's just a lot more decimal points. We'll talk about that in a second. The last one is char. It's basically just a character. So here, let's just go over. So bool is true or false. Int. Anybody remember just an int is what?
From 0 to 1.
That's a number.
Well, it can be, it's just any number without a decimal
number.
point. Yeah, so
Just
whole number.
decimals.
Yeah, no
Yes.
decimal. Yep. And then float is what?
A number with a decimal.
Yeah, exactly. So number with a decimal point. Which, let's see if you remember this one. Double is
It's got twice as you can. It's like 0.00.
yeah, it's a lot. We'll basically say it's it's a number with decimal points that are way more than double. And I think there's technically even a number. There's another one. There's another number variable that gets even crazier with the decimal points. I don't even know what it is, so I'm going to pretend that it doesn't exist. But I'm saying it here now that it does exist somewhere. I just don't know what it is. For some reason in my head, it starts with a T, but I don't think that's right. All right, and then so what is this one then? Come on, Peanut.
It's a character.
Yep. So characters, just literally just a single letter. Okay. So knowing that, we are wanting to build out the type of data that we're going to need to store to keep track of our gold system. So what is the most obvious thing that we need in order to start building out our gold system?
Gotta say what gold is.
Would be
Clear.
We need our amount of gold. Like we need to know how much gold we actively have, right? So if we need to know how much gold we actually have, based on these primitive values, which one is the most reasonable to use for keeping track of gold.
The integer, I believe.
Yeah. So
But what
go
if
ahead.
we were going through like the billions and trillions? Would that be like? Would that
So
still be
if we're getting into
int
the
or
billions and trillions, it totally depends on how we are approaching it. 1 second. Let me get rid of this. Let me do it. Sorry, it's wrong
so it would be
programming.
different?
So like if we were doing so like a float is to keep up with like the decimal points, right? So if my flat value is still going to just be like this, like if it's going to be this much, or like, here's the actual number of gold that I have. If that's the value that we're using, we're not going to have a decimal place, then we can just do integers. But if we're going to say like 1.5 billion, then we need a combination of both a float and what?
Int.
No, if it's
And then
1.5 is the float.
the integer.
No. So 1.5 is our float. What comes right after that
Oh, the
1.5?
double?
That's a B. So how do we store B? It is character. So we would combine, we would literally say, like, once we hit like 1.9 billion and it goes up to, or maybe we say 99 point, whatever your value is that goes up from billion to trillion, and we want it to go to T, we need to have a character stored that we change from B to T, and then we just reset this number back down to, like 0.1 T or just 1 T or whatever your system for measurement would be. But it'd be a combination of float, and then you need to have a marker for what that new number is, because your float would literally just adjust from like 1 to 10. When it reaches 10, it goes back to 1, and then the letter changes to determine how high up the amount you actually have is. And then you could keep track internally. You would keep track of like, so like behind the scenes would have the actual number. So like in the back end, you might see like your exact amount of gold, so that you can actually still do math. So that I can go, I'm buying 6,000 peasants for this dragon to be delivered gold, and it's going to cost me, it's going to turn all that into zeros. I need to still be able to do that math. But a display value would be controlled through this float and character system.
So is that kind of alluding to whenever you said that a lot of other classes would make you essentially build like a calendar, and that's, or not a calendar, but a calculator, and that's kind of like what they do. Like you'd have the actual number running in the background, which would then be changing, like all right, use the float value for this. Okay, now we hit this number, reset the float, and then tick up the character, and then kind of like
Yeah,
cycle like that.
yeah. So in like the calculator systems, there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. You have like your display value versus what's happening in the back end. And I'm going to tell you right now, we are going to build a system like that in the next project. I have it built in a way that's at least a little bit more fun, so that's not just a literal calculator. Chris has seen it. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So we'll definitely dig into it. But yes, you're understanding that correctly. Okay, so we have our gold amount. Okay, so we know how much our gold amount is. And then here's one that I'm going to give you. It's not gold rate that it is trying to suggest. We need to know the public int. It's going to be an integer. The gold upgrade cost. Because every single time that we upgrade, this cost could go up. The cost could, it could be a flat value, but it's probably not going to be a flat value. If it was a flat value, like imagine if it was only 10 gold every single time we did an upgrade, we could almost infinitely upgrade. So we would have to actually increase how much this cost goes up. So then we would have to also control that. Oh, like it did get that correctly. So just for our
Sorry, my
gold,
bad.
no, you're good. We have our amount of gold. We have the amount that it costs to upgrade it, and the amount let's call it something a little bit more uniform. 'Cause I like to keep the naming. Let's go out upgrade increment. So every single time we hit upgrade, maybe it goes up by 10 gold. So if it starts at 5 gold, the next time is going to be 15, the next time is going to be, so on and so forth. You just keep increasing the amount of gold that it costs per click. All right. Let's see. What are some other things we need to keep up? If this is our current example for gold, next we need our peasant system. What do you think we need for peasants to keep up with?
That would just be 100% integer.
Yeah, so we need a public int. Let's see. We'll say peasant amount starting at 0. What do we need next?
Population. Basically the same thing.
Which is?
The
glorious
bypass.
Yeah, so it's gonna be an int, right? So if we're going to say it doesn't necessarily have to be an int, but yeah, we're going to do an int here for this case. So it is our peasant upgrade cost, and we're gonna go across the board doing the same values. Ugh, I have not eaten enough. My hands are shaking. And so something else I would say, so it's our peasant, our upgrade. We're going to keep these naming the same, but when we come back to the display, I really do like the idea of tax collection as being like what's happening, right? Like I want the user to know that you are taking taxes from the people. Not only are you taking taxes from the people, you're sending them to deliver it to the dragon themselves.
It's amazing.
And I think that is the best route. So I'm just gonna put this here, tax collection. All right. And then since this is also our peasant system, there's one more thing that we haven't thought of. So we know that they're going to deliver it on a cycle. So if we're going to deliver something on a cycle, what information will we probably need to know?
Would it be kind of like a return value of some kind?
A return value is going to happen when we start making our methods and things, but we're talking about just a flat value that we want to
Yeah.
adjust to control what feature are we missing on this screen?
Float
A float for what? Here's our
for
functions.
time interval.
The time interval, exactly. Yeah, for the delivery, like how often we're going to deliver. Yes, and since it is time adjacent, it is going to be a float because we need the variables. So we're going to say delivery time we're going to say is 5f. We say f to signify that this value is a float. This f here has nothing to do with the character value system. Excuse me. And I'm actually going to move because delivery is going to be an interesting thing. So we're going to do a comment here and say delivery values. This is going to be gold system. Okay, and then let me back check to see if there's anything relevant. Here's another one that we missed. Gold per click. We have to actually know when we're clicking how much gold we're actually getting each time that we click it. So public gold, int, gold per click. And it's going to start 1. You poor some bitch. Okay. Any major things that we missed? What time is it? 41? Okay, so we'll just talk a little bit more about these. Upgrade costs, rate increase. So for our delivery system, if we know how often we're going to deliver, we also need to know well, we'll talk about that when we get. 'Cause there's some things we need here, so we're just going to put something needs to go here and something needs to go here, and then when we reach them, we'll reference these later because I don't want to get too detailed about it just yet.
Is there like a game over state?
So we don't have a game. We actually don't have a loss condition. There is no lose condition in this. So if you ever play an idle game, there's no win condition really, and there's no loss condition. That's what makes them very strange, and they're purely there for the mental addiction for people who like to gamble and me like number
I
go up.
love
Y-
gambling.
Yeah, me love number go up. So we don't need anything in there. So
Let it ride.
it's specifically related to
It's like that
delivery and
damn
time.
Goblin game.
Yeah. See, peasant count, gold capacity, gold per peasant increase. Okay, so the upgrade, this is how much it actually cost. So the peasant upgrade cost increment. So then when we upgrade them, we actually need to upgrade public int peasant. What do we want to call it? We need the amount, like whenever we upgrade them, the amount that they deliver. So delivery
Harry,
amount. So this is how much gold they're actually going to give us. And we need to increment that as well. Wait, we have the, sorry, I was looking at the auto. Peasant delivery increase. I think we might have already covered it. Let me just look back at these again. So we have the amount of peasants that we actually have. We have the cost to upgrade the peasant increases their delivery amount. I'm going to move delivery amount below it just so I can see. So this is how much gold they bring, how much more it cost to upgrade after each upgrade, and how much more gold they will increase per amount. Maybe we could also just change the delivery amount directly, but that might not be as future proof. So we'll come back to it and see if it's any good. So now that we have just these values, we'll just stick with that for right now. Let's go ahead and save it. Let's go back here into Unity. Now remember, all of these are listed as public. So public means what?
you
If
can
it
You
says
can
modify it.
access.
so, there was a you can access it, and then what did the other person say?
You can modify it freely.
Yes, so you can both modify it inside the Unity's inspector, and you can access it from other scripts. Now, if we didn't have the word public, and it was just this, by default, it is private. By default. Now, if we still wanted to be able to update it inside the inspector without changing its privacy, we could say serialized field. And serialized field will actually put it in the inspector the exact same way that a public value will. So just for kicks, we're going to leave that there. We're going to come back over here into Unity. All right. And what we need is I'm just going to do a game manager object. Say game manager. This object's purpose is to just sit in absolute zero, invisible from the world. If we zoom in where it's at, it's just right in the center of the screen. It has no functions, and the only thing that it will do is hold our stats, which this is subject to change. This is just to have it. So now we've taken a script, dragged it up to our object game manager, and attached this script to it. So now we can see all these values. So here is this private value here, the gold amount, right? Even though it's a private value, we can still adjust it. I'm going to go ahead and change it back to public, just so you see it doesn't actually change any visual representation. Okay, let's go back over. Come on. Fuck off. Why is it not going? There we go. All right, so gold amount's still there. It looks exactly the same. So we have all of our values here that we can adjust, but it's not very pretty. Imagine if we increase this even further. Now we want to add in sheep systems and farm systems and all of that other stuff. All of these values stacked on top of each other is going to get real ugly real fast. If we go into the code, we can see that we put these comments here to point them out, but we can do one system better. We can add what's called a header. And so to activate a header, you do these two brackets here. So it's open bracket, it's like the square bracket, so it's above our curly brackets on the keyboard. And we say header, and then we're going to do parentheses, and then we're going to put two quotation marks and put the name of the header on the inside. A damn insert key, I keep hitting that. And for this one, what is this? This is our gold. So this is gold systems. And we're going to close it. And then we're just going to do just like that. And then I'm going to take this. I'm going to copy this here, paste it. And this is going to be our tax collection. Our delivery value is going to take that, paste it. This is going to be our delivery systems.
So that looks kind of similar to whenever you do the debug as well.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. But what this is actually going to do for us, if we go here and we look, it's going to load. Come on, load in, load in. So we have gold systems, and then it's the gold. Tax collection, and there's the tax stuff. Delivery system. There we go. So even though it says tax collection, it's technically better to call this peasants or whatever. And then I think there's one more thing we could do to make it. I can't remember. So let me say collapsible headers. Oh, now you don't want to give me any auto suggestion, huh? All right, I don't remember how to do it. So here, we're going to pop this bad boy up real quick. We'll do scopilot. Let's see. I want the headers to be collapsible for the list of data in my inspector. Can't recall how to do it. What's the
That's
system?
the less than key.
So serializable is not fucking right. No, you fuck. Okay, I'll have to look that up separately because that is way off. But there's also a way to make it where we can collapse these headers in the inspector. Because again, you have a million items down the row. You want to be able to collapse the things that you don't want to actually look at. And you can even set the key. You can set the key of like whether it's true or false collapsed by default. So when you're like working within all this stuff, you can set the key to be like, it's 0 to open, 1 to collapse. And it's totally just like editing stuff with inside Unity. So this header gold system, this is a Unity specific thing, while all of this is C#. This is Unity. The only reason I'm introducing it is because this is going to get pretty large. All this data is going to get large. there's a lot of crap to look at. So we're going to introduce that little bit of organization. All right, so we have this data. The next thing that we're going to start doing is building out the ability of clicking the button to add the gold and putting that system together, and we'll go from there. There's only about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to cut us right there. I'm not even going to try to rush what to do with 10 minutes. We're at a really good stopping point to start coding the next set of things, and I'm going to say that this is as far as we're going to get tonight.